get is y'all don't know anything about racing. This is true. You're right. You're in the wrong show.
Yeah.
You're watching the wrong show if you want to hear like super engineer stuff.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Hitting the Apex. I'm Vish with Evan. Evan,
what's up, guys?
we got a surprise result finally.
Oh my God, we got an amazing result.
We did. Lot to unpack there. But first, I guess let's just start with this. You were out there at the Miami GP this weekend. Let's talk about the experience of being out the track.
Man, it was an awesome experience. I went out on Saturday for the sprint race. Took my sister Carly in the chat. We ended up showing up there around 11 when we got to the parking lot. Walked over to the stadium. It was a pretty long walk, I'll be honest with you on that. They had us parked over in Norland Middle School, which is pretty far away from the stadium. But we got there. Everything was great. We got in real quick. All the people there working did a fantastic job. Very helpful. Very, everything just was running smooth. Walked all the way around the track, all the way down pretty much like the back straightaway into all the little vendor areas, the fan experience. Got to see everything going on. We got to see the cars running for the sprint race, which was great because it wasn't us sitting there and just staying for the entire thing. It was, we were able to experience the whole event as an event, not just as you're sitting down in a spot watching a race. We saw the cars. We got to hear them, smell them, just feel the intensity of how fast those things really moved down that track. And the people there, everybody was smiling. Everybody was having a great time. People were running back and forth at one of the spots from the back straightaway, running across the little area over to see the start finish line area. It was a party. It was definitely a party or environment. Man, everybody had a great time. Like I said, me and my sister went, and it was once in a lifetime experience for us for sure. Hopefully next year we'll be able to make it a twice in a lifetime thing type of situation, and we'll be able to go to maybe the main race and get some actual seats and stuff like that. But that's another year away. But overall, like I said, it was fantastic. The only thing that we made sure not to do was spend any money on the food that they had there, because that was kind of ridiculous. All the stories that are coming out now about $300 chicken tenders or something like that. Being in the food industry that you guys know that I am, it's kind of like, whoa, that's a little excessive. But
yeah, that's always been the case at these races, and certainly at the last. I know Jazz won a couple of years ago. Same kind of experience in terms of the let's just call it the insane markup on everything essentially, and including on water, which is really messed up because of the heat. You kind of don't have a choice there.
For sure.
Shout out to Brandon in the chat, and also the family has shown up as always.
There you go.
All right, well, let's get into this then. So obviously you mentioned the sprint race. That's what you were able to see in person. So this was a sprint race weekend. It went the way everything seems to go nowadays. Although plot twist on Sunday, which is Max kind of easily won there. What was your take on the sprint race?
Sprint race was good, man. I mean, overall, it was kind of what we expected for the weekend. It was, Max Verstappen got out to the front and took the lead. The real surprise of the whole, of that sprint race was, Daniel Ricciardo, which, Danny Rick up there in the top end of the top 10. It's good to see. It was great to see. That's going to lead into something I'm going to talk about a little later on. But, for that sprint race, it was great to see that. It was great to see, the fans out there, during the race, all excited for that going on, for seeing Danny Rick up there. You could see the energy in that place for that. But overall, it was a good sprint race. It was good racing. Just the racing at this track. Now that they've got a couple of years, into it, and they got some experience on the simulators, and these cars are they know where the setup needs to be for these cars. They're really racy there, man. I mean, it's one of these tracks that the cars, they have enough room, they have enough, they're going fast enough, and they have enough, ability to make the passes, and to, it's not a procession type track like Monaco or something like that, or not Monaco. What is it called? The in Monte Carlo. So it's not a procession type track like that, So, it's really good just to be able to see that they're able to race, they're able to go hard with each other. Just like Brandon said, that turn one incident with Lando really kind of, set up the weekend as they were going to be racy with each other the whole time.
Yeah, and it's interesting because this is the second sprint race in a row, and the second time this year, and the second time where, certain, obviously there are exceptions, but the sprint race did not really, align with the actual race, which was not the case the last few years. I mean, you mentioned Ricardo, not only qualifying high in the sprint race, but also, carrying that into during the sprint race and I think we all expected him to drop back like a lead balloon there, and he held it. But then when it got to the actual race, it's the pace wasn't there, so he finished 15th. So kind of interesting, as Brandon said, there was no indication of what was going to happen in the race with Lando based on the sprint race as well. So it's a little interesting that they do seem to be two distinct events. And one of the things we talked about with the when I think it was the previous race in China, I believe, when they did the sprint race before, was it is a new format, and it does allow them to race harder in the sprint race because there's they can still make changes to the car because it's not in park for May yet, and they're able to. It does not determine the starting grid for the race because there's a separate qualifying. So things like the turn one incident that Brandon mentioned, you just wouldn't have that last year because everyone would be on tiptoes, not wanting to ruin their race. So I think that has worked quite a bit. And someone like Ricardo, who knows he's not going to really be competitive in the race, can really go for it. And that was interesting to see, but then interesting to also see how he had no pace in the actual race or in the qualifying that happened the same day. So he was shockingly the slowest car in qualifying after that,
being fifth place.
After that performance, and so it was a strange weekend for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I do, just like you were saying about the different rules, or the new rule set for the sprint. I think that this whole Parc Ferme thing, that they're able to work on the cars and change the cars afterwards, it just makes for a good situation, especially for teams like McLaren that have all these upgrades that they came into this week, that they're able to have a racing scenario, not just a practice, not just a qualifying, but a racing scenario that they can look at their car and go, okay, this is what it's doing. This is what we need to do for the race. This is a tire degradation. This is, the way that our suspension setup is. This is the way that our wing setup is working on the car in traffic in a racing scenario. This is how we can set up the car for Sunday to make sure that it's at its best.
Yeah, no, it absolutely gives them that window into what the race will actually look like. And they can make those changes. So it does create a different experience. So then, from there went to qualifying. Shockingly, Max on pole.
Yeah, shocking.
Two Ferraris behind him. And again, then Checo, then the two McLarens, the two Mercedes. Like it's been very much, the cars bunched up this year, and this was no exception.
Yeah. I was real surprised about how the McLarens were running on the softs. You could tell that soft tire was really getting a workout in Miami or down here in Miami. I think it was just heating up way too much, and everybody was slipping and sliding. You saw Leclerc slide, you saw Max having issues with tires the entire weekend. But as soon as you saw them on those mediums and hards, like that's when these cars really lit up. But that was during the race, during qualifying. You got to put on those softs, and it gets to the point. Like if you even look back at the sprint qualifying, they start off the first run is on the hards or on the mediums in SQ1. I think they're on the hards, right? Because they
Yeah, I think
change the
so.
tires each time.
Yeah.
Lando on the mediums was almost like a half a second faster than everybody else in SQ2 on the mediums. Right when that happened, I'm thinking to myself, man, this could be a good weekend for him, especially if they're going to be running the mediums during the race, like we expect them to be, because he was head and shoulders over everybody in that SQ2. But then as soon as they went into SQ3, for the sprint, he just dropped off. And it was the same thing in regular qualifying, because I think that from what I'm hearing from all the information I've gathered, the McLaren's big advantage that they have right now over a lot of the other teams is they're heating up these tires like that. They're able to activate their tires faster than a lot of the other teams, including Red Bull. So if you're on those soft tires and you're going into a Q3 or an SQ3, and they're falling off as quickly as we're thinking that they're falling off because of the heat, because of the track temperature, then that explains why he wasn't able to keep up maybe as quickly or be as quick as maybe like the Maxes and the Charles and stuff like that, because their tires, even though you want heat in the tires, if you go past that threshold and it's like a razor thin threshold, you're gonna blow those tires off the car like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, and there's the initial phase where you get good performance, then there's a grinding phase and they come back. In qualifying, there's no time for them to come back once you because you'll see that often in the race. There's the initial quickness, then they start to lose and then it settles, and you kind of get that performance back. In qualifying over one lap, you're just not going to do that. So, so Lando qualified fifth, which is relevant. So I guess let's get to the main event. Shout out to Carly. You missed Evan regaling us with stories of your adventures in the sprint race, but you can watch back the replay. All right, so I guess the first corner, first lap, Checo decides he's just going to go straight.
Checo scream. You could hear him screaming in the race. A classic Miami phrase, YOLO. I think he was trying to take Max out, man. I mean, look at him. He was like, I'm going to do it.
And this is a good example of when a driver's too focused on the other cars and not on actually driving. He went straight through because he was trying to outbrake. I believe it was the Ferraris, and just opened it up for actually Piastri to slide through because it didn't have to avoid. It didn't have to avoid the action, so he slid through into second. So after one turn, Checo kind of pushed himself back, and then Piastri was there with Max. I guess this is the first indication we had that the McLaren had some pace in it, because he kind of hung with Max. Max was maintaining the lead somewhat, maintain the working margin, keeping him out of DRS range, but it was not the normal. It was not the normal Max checking out and pulling 15 seconds, which he's done. So it's probably the first indication that that was not going to happen this time. And I guess the next sort of incident, I mean, we're just gonna kind of a little bit ignore the K-Mag stuff because it's not a 4-hour show and we don't have time to go through all those penalties. But I think the next race determining incident was probably Max running over the bollard, because that just brought out a VSC and most of the lead cars didn't have time to pit because the VSC
quick.
Yeah, but they can restart whenever they want, and with something like that, where it's really just getting the thing off the track, it's going to restart immediately. If it's something where they have to do a little bit of repair, a little bit of cleanup, you'll have a little bit more time. But according to Red Bull, that did actually cause some minor damage to Max's car, which might have affected his performance a little bit. But so that was kind of the next key thing. It was not at its optimal. Still good enough to win the race, but not optimally. And then Great timing, Brandon, because the next incident, not his fault. Logan gets obviously taken out,
Yep.
and by it was Magnussen, right? That's who did it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It was K-Mag.
and that triggers the safety car, and Lando was the only one who had kind of hung it out, and he benefits, maintains the lead, and then maintains the lead to the win. So that was and I'll pull the standings up, but just I guess going to back to kind of that was kind of the big thing in the race, right? Lando was able to, and you talked about this earlier. You know, you kind of could see a little bit in the sprint qualifying, like on the mediums, they were able to maintain that pace for a long time, and he was able to stay out there a lot longer than everyone else, which benefited him.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, if you looked at it, you could see the writing on the wall in that situation. Usually, even if a driver comes out on a hard tire, if it's a brand new hard tire going up against a what was it, 26 lap or 27 lap when Max went in and Lando was out there on the mediums, even a older medium can't compete with a brand new hard. A brand new hard should still be faster. And Max wasn't setting the fastest lap. Lando still had the fastest lap going on and was continuously making faster laps while he was on the old medium. I think that really was the key to the race, was the fact that he was able to hold out on those mediums as long as he did. And it just, he got, I hate to say it like this because he drove such a great race, he got lucky, that happened. And that's where the luck was there. But then right afterwards, that first corner, right as they were restarting the race, I mean, I'm sitting there, I'm watching the race, I'm thinking to myself, this is going to be the same thing all over again. Max is going to pass Lando, and the race is going to be over. Max is going to walk away with it. And you know what? I think Max Verstappen was hearing that Bailando song in his ear while he was watching him walk away from him. I don't think I've seen since the Mercedes days a driver walk away from Max Verstappen like that. Back when Lewis was dominating in Mercedes, nobody has walked away from him like that on even footing. They're saying, yeah, they had a little bit of damage, but I don't care. That car's a rocket ship. That Red Bull is a rocket ship. There should not be a car walking away from that Red Bull, and he did. And that was impressive. That got me hyped. That got me excited. That got me to the point where and the fact of the matter is Oscar's only on what, a 0.5 version of the upgrades that is happening.
Yeah.
So imagine you have Oscar come out who ran a great race besides for Carlos taking his his front wing out at the very end of the race. He had a fantastic race. Imagine when now they both are going to have, going into Imola, those upgrades. Those cars they could be a potential, competitor with the Red Bulls.
Well,
it's something we all want to see.
It's definitely something I want to see. I think obviously the Red Bull will make their own upgrades too. I think the biggest thing there was on the restart, and obviously maintain the lead in the first corner, but opening up that second of a gap before the DRS got enabled, because we all know with the Red Bull under DRS, it doesn't really matter. The other thing that I'm surprised is because obviously everyone wants someone other than Max to win, and Lando, we hadn't talked about this on the show, but Lando had set the record for most second place finishes without winning. So I think, everyone wanted him to win, but if this was like a competitive championship, the safety car picking up the wrong car gave Lando a massive advantage because it was touch and go. He had a 10 to 11 second delta when the safety car was called.
Yeah,
he was going to pit under safety car and get a cheap pit stop, but it was touch and go depending on the quality of the pit stop, whether or not he was going to come out in front of Max.
Yeah,
because the pit lane delta, I believe, was 21, 22 seconds. Chop that in about a half because it's under safety car. So it was right in that window. And because the safety car picked Max up, he had 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
And he could have gone in there, gotten out of the car, gotten a drink, gotten back in the car. And because he picked the wrong car up, and obviously eventually had to wave through the whole field.
Yeah.
And then wait for Lando to come back around and pick up the right car. And again, I cannot believe. I mean, that's a huge error on the safety car's part to pick up the wrong car, and it did give him a huge advantage. It basically meant that he had all the time in the world to pit, and what should have been a very touch and go, whether or not he's going to come back out in front, ended up being he came back out in front by 20 something seconds because the safety car already bunched the rest of the field up behind it with Lando in front of that.
Yeah.
So just that was a huge mistake by that. I think my substitutes picked up Max because they assumed Max was winning.
That's exactly
Because Max is always winning. Like that's a
They-
pretty egregious error. And then they had to like, okay, now what do we do? Because I know they were like, well, they can't let Lando come all the way around because he's going to be able to lap up on the entire field. So
exactly.
eventually the safety car actually had to pull over and wave everyone through. So you should just. That's why they usually wait at the end of the pit lane exit, like outside the first corner, and wait for the lead car to come around. That way they pick the field up at the right place.
Yeah.
Did not do that for whatever reason. Picked Max up out on the middle of the track.
He's used to seeing that Red Bull right behind him.
Yeah, gave Lando a massive advantage there. And again, I think if it was a competitive championship, if we weren't all sick of seeing Max win and sick of seeing Lando just come up short in second place, it would have been a much bigger deal because that's a pretty bad error.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And gave Lando a massive advantage there. But of course he maintained it through to the end. Like you said, he dominated the back half of the race. It wasn't just that 7.6 seconds finishing time was him coasting to the end. So it was he really did a great job there.
Yeah, and I mean the fact of the matter is that we don't see this often. This is something that we all have been waiting for. This is something that we all, not even just that it's somebody else winning, but Lando winning. I've been saying for a while, I'm a Lando fan. I'm a McLaren fan. I know you're a McLaren fan as well. So it is completely biased saying, I can't be unbiased by saying this. I have been waiting for this day for a long time. I've been waiting for the show that we do after a Lando win because I know it was going to happen. And every single driver on that grid went up and congratulated him. Every single one of them went up and said and gave him his props because at the end of the day, these guys are all competitors with each other. These guys are all, they're comrades or whatever you want to say that with each other. They're around each other all the time. They see each other all the time. And most of them have grown up with each other. The Charles, the Max, the Lando, the George Russell, all those guys literally grew up with each other. And the love and the respect that you see between them at the end of this race, it was incredible. You see Hamilton pull up next to him in the car and putting up his hands, clapping. You saw Max as soon as Lando got out of the car go right up to him and give him a big hug. This has been a long time coming, and I think a lot of even the other drivers there all knew that as well. And it was a good time for the sport. It was a good situation for the sport. It's like one of those things that you think about, like when Danny Rick won at Monaco, when he won there, it was the same type of thing. It was, everybody was extremely happy for him. Everybody was extremely, it was a release. It was a, jubilation. It's the same type of situation here.
Yeah, and that'll last exactly 10 minutes now. Now that he's got his, like you said, back to being competitors, and I have a feeling if we get a future situation where we've been over the CCH, we're not talking about junior categories. Sorry. Speaking of senior categories, our man finally shows up.
Wow, basically, an old man. Okay.
No, I was calling you an adult.
Yeah. Well, so that's debatable. That's debatable. What's going on, guys?
What's happening, brother?
I heard junior series. Are we talking juniors now? Let's go.
No, we're not. Despite CCH can keep trying. I'm not taking the bait.
Yeah, man. If you were going to start talking about juniors, I was going to get out of here as fast as I got here.
We are on the race. What were your thoughts on the race since you decided to join us, Chaz? What were your thoughts on the race? That's what we were talking about right now.
I thought it was the best race of the 2024 season so far, man. You know, I mean, obviously for obvious reasons that Max didn't win the damn race, but also I just thought it was a good race, man. There was a lot of competitiveness throughout the whole entire throughout the whole entire race. All everybody from top to middle to bottom. I think it was exciting to see. So, I really liked it. I thought the sprint race was pretty good. It was pretty cool too. I love that they did it here because it just I mean, I don't want to say I love that they did it here, but the truth is Miami loved it because it gives them something else to do. On top of the actual race and qualifying. Hey, let's throw in a sprint race also. More celebrities, more people, more money, more $280 lobster rolls.
$200 chicken tenders.
So stupid, but that is what it is, and I guarantee you somebody bought it. A lot of people did. So
for sure,
because Miami, right? So yeah, man, I was excited about it for sure. What else you guys got cooking here?
Well, actually, I didn't write down the predictions from the last race. If you have them in front of you,
we
weren't able to review them, so now we can do that. I feel like I got this wrong.
Here we go.
I feel like we all got this wrong.
I think we all did, dude.
I think I don't think I had Max winning because I went Max DNF as my surprise, but I think I still got it very wrong.
I think I had my top 3 there, but the order wasn't correct.
You did have the top 3. Vish had Checo, Sainz, and Lando. And then Evan, you had Max, Lando, and Leclerc. So you almost got it right. You almost got it right. You just flipped Max and Lando. That's it.
Exactly.
I had Max, Leclerc, and Checo, so I totally screwed the pooch there. So, but I did have Ricardo in the top 7, which came to fruition in the sprint. Not in the actual race.
Hey,
then when an hour later, he's qualifying last.
Yeah.
Listen, you get half points for that one. Half points for that one.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I mean, Evan, you had Logan with points for crying out loud.
Oh, come on. I mean,
it's not his fault. Magnussen took his ass.
Yeah, Magnussen took his ass out.
He was totally the second half. He was going to own the second half of that race, man.
Yeah, he was. He was getting in the points for sure. Yeah, he was having a great race. And then Max, you had your DNF.
When he ran over that baller and he gave me a chance, but
when he ran over that cone, I said, "Yes, it's over. That's it." Oh my god, that was something else. That was interesting to see. Honestly, I mean, this is the first time that I see Max kind of make some, critical mistakes on the track. Right? Yeah. It looked like he got a little frustrated. I know he was complaining a little bit about the grip on his tires and whatnot, but when doesn't he complain? He could be up by 30 seconds and still complain that he's got no grip. So I take that with a grain of salt. But you kind of saw, a little bit. Hey, look, he didn't. It wasn't a photo finish. He lost by 7.6 seconds. You know what I mean? That's significant. I know. I mean, kudos to the Papayas, right, for bringing these kick-ass upgrades. Lando had I think 100%. Of the upgrades as they were bringing, and Piastri had 50%. And they both did well. I think Piastri just had bad luck there at the end when he was fighting with Carlito.
Fighting Carlito.
Yeah, man. So that it happens, but he drove really well this weekend. Obviously, Lando had the race of his life. So kudos to them for bringing a car that. That is that exciting. I saw a meme that's that good right now. I saw a meme that I saw Total Wolf walking really fast, and it said Total Wolf walking over to McLaren to take their engine back. So it's pretty funny, man, because God, Mercedes looks like crap right now. Like, what the hell? And even then, Hamilton had a great drive, I think, this weekend. Also, I think he looked sharp, but that car is just not any good right now, man. Like, it's just not. And it's a shame because you saw Hamilton be able to make some moves even with that car. He was able to make some moves in the race yesterday, but not yesterday, on Sunday. But the truth is that Papaya looked really impressive. Ferrari still looks really good, and they're bringing some upgrades now soon as well. So if they're that quick without the upgrades, I think that they're going to look really good coming up. I don't know if they're bringing it in Imola or after that, but I believe it's scheduled to.
I think it is Imola
for them to bring it into Imola. So that's going to be exciting to see there. So those are going to be exciting. It's going to be interesting to see how Red Bull responds, right? Because now you've got two teams that are just bringing out all the stops in there, and they're doing really well at it. And the first example of it was Lando. Really, I mean, he really turned it on Sunday, and he looked great. And we've always known that Lando's a great driver. We've always known that he's the future of F1, and I mean the future is now. He's that good of a driver now. He has been on the podium, right? What was it? 13, 14, 15 times, right?
Yeah,
15 times.
8 second places, which was a record without winning.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And he's 24 years old. So the kid's gonna kick ass, man. And he finally got his first win. And I think that Red Bulls are gonna have to really buckle down and get some shit done now, because the Ferraris and the Papayas are coming after him hard. So we'll see. Max
had Bailando playing in his headphone as he was going.
Well,
as he saw him walk away from him during that last stint.
That's funny.
We gotta though give a shout out to Alpine for finally getting a point.
Oh Jesus. Yeah.
Finally giving a point.
Who was Ocon, right? Ocon got
right there. Yeah, squeezed in the 10th there.
They doubled their point count for the entire year.
Gotcha. Yeah. Congratulations, buddy. And Magnussen is over here getting kicked out of F1 basically at this point. Yeah.
He is in danger of being suspended. Yeah.
That's ridiculous, man.
That's funny.
Nico's doing so good. Nico's propping up that team so much, man. It's like, K-Mag, you just gotta be there. Like, just do your job and get it done. Like, how do you not do that when you got another driver who everybody thought you guys were like at the same level, and he's completely destroying him.
I mean, he did Latifi this race for Lando to win it. So
yeah,
he did Latifi.
He did.
Is that Glock?
Well, he unnecessary tried to overtake for 19th place, took out someone and created a safety car that let Lando win. So,
by the way, I got a question for you.
We do have baseball coming up next,
yes,
so we can talk about the bad news, which is that the team still has 2 series left. All right,
is it? Do you think that there's still a possibility that Ricardo's, gets that seat next year, or is it? I mean, was it kind of just?
You mean the Red Bull seat?
Yeah.
No chance.
He's
terrible. He sucks.
No chance.
Let's be real. Like, I don't know what that was in the sprint race, but
yeah, I don't know either. But he looked good doing it, so everybody kind of gets, oh wait, hold on a second, does he still have it? Does he still got it? I don't know about that, because he ended up in the back of the circuit now for the race itself, because he couldn't.
That was his 2019 Monza all over again.
Yuki still looks better
than him.
The
one race, It's the one race. It's like how he did, like I said, at Monza in 2019, 2020.
Yeah, where he just randomly won a race.
Exactly. This was that for him in an AlphaTauri or RB, whatever it is now. That's the limit of that car right there, and he did it. I mean, we got to be happy for him for doing that, but no way. Yeah, no way he gets sent out.
No, you can't. I think this has got to be his last year. He's been abhorrent.
I think next year is going to be interesting to see what the hell happens with all this.
Well, we got some more on that in a bit, but let's look at the standings here. Max is still winning, of course. Checo's still in second, but you can see Lando has made a move up the standings. They're tied with Carlos now.
Leclerc's only down 5 points, right?
From
second place
from Checo, yeah.
Yeah, so Leclerc's doing much better now. The last couple of races, he's looked in form, right? He's been in form now, and I think he's starting to figure that car out a little bit. Carlos is still looking good. I know that they talked about not having enough pace in this race, but they still look fast. They still look pretty quick, right? So you saw, I mean, the biggest disappointment was the overtake when Piastri overtook Carlos, right? Was it Carlos? Yeah, it was Carlos, right?
Yeah.
We overtook Carlos, but I think Carlos, eventually would have taken him back. I know he was kind of messing with him a little bit, and then they kind of
he did take him back in terms of he took him out.
Well, no shit.
His whole front wing.
But I think that I know they were trying to conserve the tires and whatnot for a little bit, but he was still within DRS the whole time. So they still look good, and that's that papaya. That the McLaren brought their upgrades also. So, I think it's gonna be interesting to see what happens the next race. Where's the next race at?
It's
Imola.
Oh, that is it. Duh, yeah, Imola, obviously. So yeah, it's gonna be fun to see there. It's kind of a home race for Ferrari, right? A little bit. So
Yeah, a little bit.
yeah, a little bit. So should be fun. Should be fun.
And constructors, I mean, nothing really.
No,
Nothing really even competitive here. Maybe McLaren
Yeah.
can, make it competitive with Ferrari going forward, but right now it's not. There's distinct gaps between all of the teams
Yeah.
in the top 6, really.
yeah, that's true. I mean, it's the top. I mean, the top 3 are running away with it right now. If you think,
Yeah,
about
but
it.
even between the 3 of them,
True.
there's huge gaps between all 3. Like no one's really close to each other. So
Right.
You're gonna have to see situations like, Checo DNF,
Like what he did last year.
Yeah, Checo
What he did last
DNFing, Carlos or Leclerc having issues, or anything like that, for any of those gaps to get any smaller. Because I think right now there is that clear 1, 2, and 3 team. There is that clear, Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren. If they end up the way they should be, it should always be them in the top 6. But how they stack up in there, I guess that's what we're hoping to find out and hoping to see. But those are the clear teams.
Look, I mean, Vish, you're a McLaren fan. I don't know about you. I've always said I kind of like McLaren, anyways. But how happy are you to see Zach Brown kind of having the success now? Say, hey, it looks like they finally got it right. They got something right there.
I mean,
I'm excited to see. I'm happy for him.
I mean, as Evan said, they won a race in this era. It's
Well, it's been like 12 years since they won one, right?
No, they won.
they won.
Daniel Ricciardo won. They finished 1-2 in Monza.
Oh, that's right.
That was all of a sudden Ricciardo won a race. He's like, I told you I'd be back, and then he disappeared again.
That was the year that Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen had that big crash at turn 1 where he jumped on top of the car.
Right.
Yeah, that was one where Max drove over the top of them because Lewis came out in front of the pits, and Max was just like, "Well, he's not going to take my points," and took them both out. That was that season. So it hasn't been that long since since they've won a race, but I think what's been lacking is consistency, and frankly, we'll see. As Zachary said, and Evan pointed out earlier, Oscar had half the upgrades,
right?
But other teams are going to, and Jazz pointed this out, other teams are going to bring upgrades too, right? So the fact that they got them at their first gave them a momentary advantage. Yeah. But Red Bull will come out with whatever the hell Adrian Newey just drew up next race, and
he's not drawing anymore.
He is still for now, right? He's for the rest of this year.
I thought that they said that he was, from what I had heard, he's off the Formula One development stuff. He goes to the races still because he's there technically as still an advisor or whatever, but he's not working on any of the cars from what I heard.
Yeah, I don't know. I know he was sitting next to Horner in the paddock, their little area there and whatnot. So I don't know. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think though it'll be because we've seen obviously the Ferrari show a lot of pace as well. Carlos has won a race this year. That was one where Max DNF, but still he had a lot of pace there. And Ferrari has been the reason they're second in the constructors. They've consistently been good,
right,
across the tracks. They just haven't ever been.
Don't jinx it.
They just haven't ever been the fastest car, but they did win the race when Max DNF. They were in position to capitalize. Yeah. I do think one of the differences between what we've seen the last couple of years from Red Bull and what we saw when Mercedes was dominating is even when Mercedes was dominating, and it was Hamilton, Bottas 1-2, there were still tracks where they stunk. Yeah. And you'd be like, oh, this is a Red Bull track. Red Bull is going to win this week, even if they're the 4th best car on the grid, but they're going to win this week because there's not been any of that with it. This Red Bull is so perfect, and Max is the perfect driver for it. That this literally it was just Singapore last for where'd their pace go? Yeah. Other than that, it's been high downforce, low downforce, high speed corners, slow speed. It doesn't matter. They're still the fastest car. So that's where you're hoping, with some of these upgrades, these other teams, at least maybe on certain tracks, they'll have an advantage and see more variability. Because this has been the most dominant kind of 2-year stretch we've ever seen, and it's across a wide variety of tracks. They race on more different kinds of tracks than they ever have in the past, and doesn't matter. They're still faster than everyone else. So we'll see. They're going to bring more upgrades, like as Jazz mentioned. Ferrari will as well. McLaren might bring some stuff, but they kind of shot their big gun this weekend. Obviously, it paid off for them. As Zachary said, the Piastri will get the rest of the upgrades in the next race too. So they'll put 2 cars. I think we're putting in, and Mercedes is an afterthought right now. So really, what you're looking for is Ferrari and McLaren to kind of close the gap up a little bit.
Yep. I agree. What else we got cooking there? If you took away Verstappen, the championship would have been super competitive last year. Yeah, obviously.
I mean, that could have been like you could have said the same thing with Mercedes if you took Hamilton away. Bottas wasn't always finishing second,
right?
And certainly the gap was closer. But if you take away Verstappen, Checo's winning a lot of those races, and then the gap opens up again. Because the biggest gap in points is first to second. Yep. So if someone's winning all the races, you take them away. Necessarily, everything's going to bunch behind. So we'll see. Imola in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Imola in 2 weeks, baby.
So there is one kind of driver news thing that I know. Our man Mr. Santana here will be interested in, which is Carlos. So basically, Sauber just nonchalantly mentioned, "Oh yeah, of course he's our first choice." But it sounds like he's got a lot of suitors. Obviously, he's until last week, and it was the only non-Red Bull to win a race in like 2 years, and he did it multiple times. And we are so not having this conversation, CC. It's Italian F4. Get the out of here. All right. So
first of all,
gotta love CCH with the F4 talk.
But
you got way too much time on your hands.
Yeah, exactly. The Sauber, which keep in mind is going to be Audi, so it's going to be a major manufacturer with a bunch of money behind it. They basically said, of course, Carlos is the number one choice. That's who we want, but. He's not. The answer right now is no. Like there's a lot of competition. Depends on what he wants to do and all this. So there have been rumors like, is he going to be out of a drive? He's not going to be out of a drive. It's a matter of where.
They did just sign Hulkenberg, but we all,
Yeah, but that's to be a number two. That's definitely a number 2 driver.
Yeah, for sure.
There's no way.
It's the German connection. It's Audi's a German company. German manufacturer. They wanted a German driver in there. I'm honestly surprised they haven't tried to get Gunther Steiner in that team to do something.
Well,
if they do, they're screwed.
Yeah, I mean, look. So this is the drive to survivization because.
Yeah. You definitely want to survive and bring.
There's very little evidence he's actually good at his job.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, he was all over the place
this
weekend.
He's great on a microphone. He's great.
Yeah, exactly. He was in his core skill this weekend when he was on the mic, but that team is not exactly light the world on fire with him in charge of it. So
for sure,
he got famous off of the Netflix, but is he actually good at his job? Probably not. And Audi seriously wants to compete, so they have trouble doing that if they don't get the top quality, which is why they want Carlos. So
I mean, they need that number 1 driver.
And I guess to kind of wrap things up, there was a question earlier from Brandon. Anyone have thoughts on this? Like what's going on? So they are we pulled the standings up earlier, but they're 1 of 2 teams, them and Sauber, that have not scored a point.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking last week that this might be his last week in that seat. Honestly, I don't see them taking it away from him after this. He was running in the back of the pack, but he got taken out. He didn't really lose because of anything he did wrong. He was driving an okay race for him. It wasn't anything special. I know I predicted that he was going to be up there. I thought he was going to be a little bit more, have a little bit more opportunity at the other end of the pack. But, at the end of the day, you got a driver that didn't do anything wrong. He got taken out pretty egregiously by a driver that now we all think is going to have a pretty hefty suspension, could be taken out of the next race. I don't see them taking him out of that seat. Whether he deserves to keep the seat or not, that's a question for them to decide. But, I don't see them doing it just because of that. I don't see them, hey, you got punted. Now, I'm sorry, you're going to get punted from the rest of the team.
Right.
I mean, they clearly don't. He's gone at the end of the year. I think we all know that.
For sure.
But what is even the point of They already stole his car to give it to Albon
Yeah.
after Albon wrecked earlier and still couldn't score. Like, that car is terrible. Like, it's not competitive to get in the points. And I mean, I would be surprised they did an in-season swap, but yeah, his time is run out here. But it doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, the car is so bad, and it's hard to judge overall. But he's consistently behind his teammate, which is generally not a good sign.
Yeah.
The other thing I will say just overall about this race is, Miami needed a good race. We talked about this in the last week. Like, it's been Max just walking the race every time. And, this was brought in as the glitzy glamour American race on the calendar to offset Austin's more traditional race. And then Vegas came in behind.
Yeah, took that.
You want to see glitz and glamour? Look at this shit. We're going to drive down the strip.
Yeah.
That was pretty crazy.
So all of a sudden, where does Miami even fit?
Yeah.
It's just
did a
another
good
race.
job.
And it was good that the racing itself.
The racing was good.
If the racing continues to be good then that carries a lot of weight, because
For sure.
if you look at this, it's no longer the glamour race
Yeah.
in the United States. That's Vegas now, and it's
That's
also not that the track and Circuit of the Americas is a real racing track, and is a superior track. So they really needed a good race here.
For sure.
And they got it.
More money in the racing. Yeah.
Who is they? Because do you think Stephen Ross owns that one?
He doesn't own that.
No.
Because here's the thing.
No, but they're getting something out of it.
Oh,
No, they are. But we are you cannot possibly add very many more races this calendar. So when push comes to shove, and someone else, I know he owns the race. It's not Miami's choice whether they have a race. It's F1's.
Yeah.
With 3 races in the United States now, there are other countries with funneling money through God knows what that'll give like $1 billion to sports wash.
Kyle Lamy.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. He's not going to pay Mid-Eastern money. I'm so close to banning from the chat. Go read a book on economics. That's money laundering. What they're doing in the Middle East is money laundering. It's called sports washing.
Yeah.
And no, like, Stephen Ross is not going to pay that kind of money to launder his reputation. He doesn't need to.
Yeah.
And certainly if they have to kill a race, there's a purpose-built track in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
There is racing on the strip, and there is the Hard Rock Stadium parking lot.
No, that's a good point. But like we were saying, it was a good race, and it was a good time, and people have.
It is 100% sports washing, man. I have too much power, is all I'm gonna say, because you're about to get killed. Anyway, perma ban.
Man, let me tell you, Zach. By the way, I wish this was the American monocle. Honestly, I mean, I get what he's saying. I get what he's trying to say, but yeah, I mean, you can't call it the American monocle.
I'm not saying that
you got a fake yacht.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 things going on, right? Is it advantageous for Miami and for the Dolphins on the stadium? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Does that mean that the race is permanently going to be there? No, because there's another party at play here, and there are now oversaturated American markets, which is why it was important that there was a good race this weekend. Because frankly, this race is known for exactly what Jazz talked about.
The glitz and the glamour.
No, dry dock.
Oh yeah,
That is like, this race was kind of a joke,
and they still joked about it this.
Yeah,
weekend.
they still joked about it, but the racing overcame it.
Absolutely.
And ultimately, that's what people care about. And so it was a very good weekend for Miami.
I actually laughed too when I saw those fools sitting in a boat on top of cardboard. Bunch of idiots. But anyways, and you paid.
Is CCH trying to see if I will ban him? Because
back on the end of the road, course. Yeah, sure. Whatever. Jack Daniels. Hey, look at who is there. Wait a second.
Jack.
Wait a second. Where the hell have you been? Like, what the hell's going on here? You need to talk a little bit so CCH, we can drown his ass out. Because he's going crazy here. He's going crazy here. Okay? Well, just stop watching the show. Go watch baseball in a little bit. $280 lobster rolls for the race. Yeah, I know. We talked about that earlier. It's stupid, man. It's good to see you, Jack. It's good to see you, my friend.
Evan's fan club is growing here.
Hop on. Wait, Jack, hop on. We'll get to Cheryl in a second, but Jack, I miss Jack, bro. I haven't seen him in like 8 years. What the hell is going on with this guy? Hop on the baseball one, man, so we can talk a little bit. Cheryl, leave Evan alone. He's got enough already. He's got enough fans here. Jesus Christ.
Hold on, let me point this out. Cheryl
if you can find her, let us know.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Hold on, let me shout this out. Cheryl is her and her husband came out to the restaurant. They're from Canada. They're from Vancouver, Canada. They came down to the race, and they're Carlos Sainz fans. I saw them wearing the Carlos Sainz gear, and I started talking to them. They came 3 days in a row. They came Friday. They came Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday after Lando won. And as soon as she saw me, she ran right up to me, gave me a big hug. You know, we had a bunch of F1 fans at the restaurant this past weekend because we're so close to the stadium.
Oh, yeah, Miami Lakes, yeah.
Yeah, so it was great. I had a great time, you know, just going up to people and talking to everybody, and you know, I want to also
She's a fan of the right driver too, man. All right, shout out to you, Cheryl.
If I can give another shout out, the people from Bonhams came out to they were at the race doing a auction where they actually had a whole bunch of really beautiful cars and stuff like that. They all came out to the restaurant over the weekend a bunch of times too, and they were all fantastic. Jen, the lady who was in charge, really hooked it up, and you know, got me into their little the booth that they had there with all the really cool cars. And they came out to the restaurant. They're very awesome people. Talked to me for a while. Were really great to my employees at Ale House. And then we had when we went to the race on Saturday, they took care of us there. So it was a good time. You know, a lot of real nice people I met over the weekend, you know, that were all F1 fans, and, you know, got us some new watchers on the show. So
who needs advertising? We got Evan Soanes here in the house, baby. We got the whole Soanes family. There's like 78 of them in the chat. Now you got Cheryl. You know, who knows where Brandon came from? Brandon's another, you know, all these guys are here to see Evan. I love it.
Brandon was at the sprint, man. Jazz missed the beginning of the show where Brandon was at the sprint race sitting in the first corner where Lando wrecked it in the sprint race.
Crap. Okay.
He was right there.
That's pretty
He was on site, yeah.
That is cool. We appreciate all of you guys for real. Yep. We really do, man. It's this is little by little. There's not enough good F1 coverage, and as I stated in the intro, you know, if you're coming to watch one of these technical F1 shows, the technical jargon of us talking about engines and this, that, and the other. No, you're right, CCH. We don't. You're driving us freaking crazy. Then you're watching the wrong show. This is we're all fans here. We love the teams, and we love the drivers, and we connect that way more than anything else. I mean, obviously, Vish and Evan know a little bit more on the technical side. I'm more of the fan crazy kind of guy that likes to talk trash about it. So, but I've learned a lot through these guys also, and we just try to have fun with it, man. That's the whole purpose. We don't try to get too technical here because that's boring. All right, if you want to go watch that, go watch F1 TV. But instead watch this. This is a lot more fun.
Oh yeah,
a lot more fun. Lando wins in Miami. I'm just seeing the marquee scroll thing on the bottom now. That's it. I think we're done, right? I think we're done.
Yeah, we're good. It will have the 2 weeks. We'll have that preview next week. We got oh, look at this.
Thanks, Jane. Oh, there it is. Tugging at the heartstrings, Jane.
Yeah,
all right.
There you go.
we got the baseball show coming up next.
Yes, we do. Make sure you follow us on F1_5 Reasons and Hidden Apex here every Tuesday at 9:00 at night. We went over today. Really, yeah.
Well, that's what happens when you show up late and we have to do the show twice. But
it's true. We went on Cuban time here. It's always much better when you get this beautiful man here on the show. Anyways, all right, I'm done. We'll see you guys next week.